transcendental unity of apperception. Having elucidated the working of the mind strictly in logical terms and having demarcated the logical powers of the mind from its psychological powers, Kant moves on to discover another mysterious entity, viz. The I or the self. True to his logical rigor, Kant formulates the I or self to be the transcendental unity of apperception, whereby he means the ability to focus on our experience as unified in our own perceptions of them. It is termed transcendental to distinguish from the empirical or psychological self something that can be discovered in sensation and reflection. The self that he talks about is also strictly logical. The self that holds all the experiences together, sees them in the order of their succession, remembers the past events and anticipates the future. This self accompanies all our perceptions, which implies that the self and the world arise together. There is no self without the world and no world in the sense of organized unified structure without the self. Kant terms the activity of the mind in holding together and connecting the logical and sensory contents of experience as synthesis. This synthesis is three-phased, consisting of apprehension, reproduction and recognition. The first grasping of connections in your surroundings is apprehension. But for thinking to take place, a continued reproduction of whatever is grasped is needed. And recognition is the ability to re-identify the same when it appears after some interval of time. All these are again strictly logical in terms of pure forms of sensibility and categories of understanding. Then the question remains, what about the psychological self and the so-called spiritual self or the soul? Unlike his predecessors, Kant is very ingenious on answering these questions. For him, the body and the mind are a unity, and that unity is expressed in one's memory of past episodes, the grasp of the present situation, and in the anticipation and plans for the future. And in fact, this expression is facilitated by the stability of the world. Thus, every individual's experience of the psychological self is necessarily tied up with his or her experience of the world. That experience is at the base of the conviction of being an individual, with definite location in space and time, differentiated from other individuals, human and non-human, and pursuing one's own personal goals within the total structure of one's environment. Turning to the idea of soul and its attributed permanence, true to the spirit of enlightenment, Kant rationalizes the whole idea by demarcating the legitimate and the illegitimate. As long as a person is alive and manifests all the characteristic capacities, permanence of human personality cannot be denied. But when he or she ceases to function as a person, that is to think, to feel, to be conscious, that is to be aware of the world, it is unintelligible and hence illegitimate to continue talking about the permanence of his or her soul. Thus, on theoretical grounds, absolute permanence or the immortality of the soul cannot be affirmed. It is at this juncture that Kant ventures to answer the second and third questions mentioned in the beginning, viz. What ought I to do and what I may hope for?